want to show you how I created this shot using no CG at all and only using elements from the real physical world and compile it together into this one shot. One of the reasons why I wanted to work like this is because lately everything has become digital or an imitation of the real world. We have now accepted that when you use a painting program, you're using a program that's imitating real brushes instead of just using real brushes. When you go to the supermarket, you buy food that imitates food, but it's not real food. So yeah, that was one of the reasons why I wanted to actually create something in the real world with my hands. First, I did a little sketch of the house in my sketchbook, and that sketch was my initial reference point for the measurements of the house. I took some cardboard and then I started doing my measurements, and I was drawing with my pen directly on the cardboard. And then after that I started cutting it into pieces by cutting out the windows and the door frame to give it a little bit of sense of 3D into the house. I really enjoyed this process, and it felt quite good to actually have the house physically in my hand. I could feel it as I was creating it. And then I started painting the house with gouache paints. I started with the foundation of the red color, and then I was painting in the woodwork, and then I moved on to painting the door and then the windows. One of the reasons why I wanted to use gouache paint the way I did was I wanted to move towards a more anime style of art direction of the house. After finishing painting the main section of the house, I moved on to the roof. For the roof, I discovered a textured paper that looked really close to what I wanted to achieve in the finished result. So that became my foundation for the roof. I only had to measure it out, cut it out, and painting a little bit of top to give that feel that was consistent with the rest of the house. So I went back into my sketchbook and I started sketching out shapes of trees that fit into the feeling that I wanted. I did quite a few variations of the shapes because I knew I wanted a certain amount of trees in the shot. Once I finished the tree sketches, I went out into the park and started taking photos of trees, mainly the bark, as a reference for the tree texture. And I wanted a certain feel of reality or real life texture to it. And where else do you get it than from the actual real world? I used those photos of the bark as an overlay on top of my tree shapes and a little bit of extra paint on top to get the painterly but still realistic feeling wood texture that I wanted. For the ground surface, I actually used water paint. I like the natural organic feeling you get when you splat water paint onto a sketchbook paper. And in that process of creating the ground layer, I created it in layers because I knew I wanted to have a bit of perspective, parallax feeling in my shot. I then sketch out the character that I wanted in the shot in my sketchbook, and I sketch him in the pose that I wanted him to stand in. After all those elements have been created, I assembled it all into my software. The only purpose of this software is to be the assembly point of all of these elements, old school style. First, I will clean up the sketch drawing that I did and draw on top of it in my software and create a clean outline, and did a rough color pass as well. I was going for a simple structure of a base color and a highlight color. Once all of these elements have been imported, I would also use real smoke, dust, and environmental effects to add that extra layer of depth to the shot. The atmospherics in the shot were very important detail that had to look right. After all these elements had been combined into the software, I would start animating. The way I would animate these layers is the classical old school parallax way. The foreground layer would scale up and move a little bit faster than the midground layer, and then that would move a little bit faster than the background layer. As you can see, the foreground trees and the foreground layer is moving a little bit faster than the rest, and this to give the illusion that we are actually in a 3D universe, which we are not. It's the 2D elements that are pretending to be 3D. And of course, we have the boy character in the foreground who will move a little bit more than the midground layer. I would also animate the boy in the foreground. He's not really moving, but there's still wind blowing in his shirt and in his hair. Once all of these elements of the boy The trees, the ground, the dust, the smoke has been animated. And finally, I'll just do a tiny little bit of color correction pass. And voila, this is the finished result. I'm really happy about the result, but not just the result, but also the whole process of making this shot. There's something really special about being able to work in the physical real world, where you can actually feel the paint, you can hold on to the physical house that you built with your own hands and see it come to life. In these days where the imitation has become the norm, it's really special to actually build something that is real. So in conclusion, this is definitely a workflow I will continue to do, and this is not the last time I will work this way. I've now been working in the animation industry for more than 27 years, and I was there when 3D became the industry standard. And to be honest, I've never been really convinced that 3D is the most practical way of making animated films. Before you can even animate a character, you have to model it, texture it, shade it, break it, and skin it, in comparison to just making a drawing. Even Disney's The Little Mermaid, the 2D animated feature from 1989, was made for around $40 million, which is roughly $105 million today. In comparison, Frozen 2 had a budget of around $150 million. The technology has changed drastically, but that doesn't mean that it has become simpler. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next one.